I am also pleased to see that 4 new detector dogs have been graduated on Friday, just this last week, and there are plans to have 11 new detector dogs in operation by the end of the year. This is great progress. I'm also pleased that MPI is advertising for 40 new frontline staff, and improvements to the personal goods container arrivals are being introduced. Just yesterday, I visited, along with 3 director colleagues, the ITOC facility here in Auckland. The ITOC facility is the Integrated Targeting Operational Centre. It runs 24 hours and 7 days a week. It is the facility which has well-trained staff who support the command, planning and coordination of the operations of customs, police, immigration and biosecurity. It is basically the heartbeat of New Zealand's intelligence system, and it gathers and maintains a history on every passenger, every ship, every container coming in and going out. It is a formidable example of how well we have united security, border security across New Zealand. So ongoing improvement, increased resourcing, better communications will help build confidence amongst growers and the New Zealand public in our biosecurity system. That will in turn lead to encouraging industry product groups to agree and sign GIA agreements for managing the future response and readiness of biosecurity. Horticulture New Zealand spends over $2 million in Horticulture New Zealand funding every year on advocating around these issues and on industry communications. This financial year we have recorded a surplus, which is a result of careful management of all portfolios and firm focus to stay within our budget and keep our costs very much under control. This has required management to target the priority issues that affect growers and ensure that every dollar spent is carefully considered. We spend about 25% of our levy income on resource management advocacy because it is the most cost-effective way for the industry to deal with these enormous issues. If we did not do this work, then individual growers and product groups and district associations would be left to work through it for themselves. So clearly, this is an example of where our critical mass of a united industry and combined funding results in better outcomes for growers and better use of funds. The RMA has become the single most crippling influence on businesses in the horticultural industry today. The cost is out of control and totally out of balance with primary industry. It also limits the ability of these sectors to grow. It is limited by the bureaucracy and the red tape legislative culture that seems to be developing or developed in public servants. The whole RMA is driven by sticks and not carrots. That's the wrong way round. Minister, I'm sure you came here thinking you were going to spend your time wearing the primary industries hat, but I actually want you to wear 2 hats. But before I leave that, last night we had the last stage of the young grower contest, and one of the young men came up with an idea. From the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, we renamed it the Ministry of Primary Industries. Primary is first. Primary is number 1. Primary is Ichiban. This industry here is the most important industry. So when we welcome the Minister of Primary Industries, we've got the number 1 minister. You're also, sir, the Minister of Local Government. If you were able to save 10% of the cost of the RMA in New Zealand and apply that to biosecurity, growers would be very, very happy, and we truly would in fact have the best biosecurity system in the world. Minister, we will be talking to you more and more about local government and resource management issues. In the next 6 years, we intend to focus more on the energy-sapping, business-restricting money pit that is New Zealand's resource and environmental compliance system. It is a nightmare for growers all over the country, and we're declaring simply, we've had enough. Horticulture New Zealand would like to strongly endorse the work that you and your government have already done and try to removing some of the roadblocks and potholes in the current system. We'd also like to encourage you to continue on with this work and offer our support in every way that's possible for that reform. I'd be very confident that most growers in this room would have spent over $5,000 on resource consents for their businesses within the last 12 months. With only 200 of our 6,000 growers in the room, we can assume that resource management business took some $30 million out of our industry last year. Even $4,000 per grower is more than $20 million out of our industry. And I know many growers who have spent $100,000 and more. And it's not including the complying with the resource management application process or the $500,000 that Hort New Zealand contributes on behalf of growers. It's a crazy, crazy system we find ourselves in, and we fear that this is getting worse and worse. The tsunami of resource consent management issues is still gathering enormous momentum, and we haven't seen anything like the worst of it happening yet. And they're crippling our growers, they're crippling our industry. Any growers who have faced RMA consent issues understand that threat very, very well. They understand the cost of that threat. But growers who haven't been affected, please be warned, it's coming. What we would like to see is local government reform, streamlined, becoming more efficient and effective. So we tried to assess that. We're trying to assess the potential negative impacts on grower businesses from the proposed district and regional council plans. This is a continuous process of information gathering. It is about research, examining the evidence, and challenging the decisions being made, and sometimes at the very highest level. We are very conscious that a plan changes in proposal in one regional authority can quickly set a precedent that other councils follow and leverage from. Capital rating of horticultural land is a perfect example of this, as is the annual rate increases that seem to be leveraged from council to council. Our team with RMA has spent 6 years working on the impacts of Horizon's Regional Council's One Plan for the Central North Island. And those of you who are familiar with it will well understand the complexities of that. This has been long, playing, frustrating, and extremely expensive. The final drama has just been played out in the Environment Court, but we're waiting on the outcomes of the final aspects of the plan, which went to the Environment Court for resolution despite months and months of negotiation and mediation. This case has been extremely important, not only because it was intended to place extensive controls on horticulture in the Central North Island, but because Horizons was being closely watched by all other authorities up and down the country. We cannot afford to fight too many more of these battles like this. Next year we'll be looking very closely at where the cost and the benefit falls on a case-by-case basis. In keeping with the start of the Olympics at the end of this week, we have come up with a very short list of local government medal winners. We think these councils really are trying to make a difference while still keeping all their stakeholders informed and consulted. So we have our bronze medal winner. Our bronze medal winner with a surprising strong late finish is Environment Canterbury. This council has been at the forefront of New Zealand's most difficult resource management decisions, and there have been plenty of trials and tribulations along the way. However, they maintain an exceptionally professional approach, and ECAN staff are knowledgeable and approachable. Our silver medalist goes to the local council, is the Taranaki Regional Council. These people were simply good to deal with. We would like to see every council in the country match their standard. And finally, our gold medalist for 2012 is a newcomer to the field. It is the Auckland Council. Surprise! If these people can continue in the same way that they have started, then we may be seeing the beginning of a whole new change in the approach to local government. This is certainly our hope, and we award them with pleasure because we want to encourage this improvement, we want to encourage this communication, and we do want to have more efficiency and effectiveness. If I was able to put in front of you a list, the list of New Zealand businesses that are being strangled by some of this bureaucracy would be much, much longer and would probably run around this room a couple of times. Today on our conference program, we have focused differently this year, and we want to have a clear look at going forward and going into the future and the challenges that we will face. We have tailored the breakout sessions to discuss not only the issues of biosecurity and RMA that I've been talking to you about, but market access, our 10-20-20 vision for the horticulture industry, food safety, developing your businesses, as well as many other topics. So please get involved in these, get immersed in them, and take home some messages and learning from them. So in conclusion, thank you, Minister, for being with us today. Thank you, growers, for the 6 years of support that you have shown Horticulture New Zealand. And finally, as a grower myself, I do ask that all growers support the vote for Horticulture New Zealand going forward. We all expect value from what we pay. We all expect value from Hort New Zealand. And no one expects to deliver value more than Horticulture New Zealand. But without this organisation, growers will not have a national voice. Without this organisation, growers will not be heard. So it is important that everyone unites and gets behind this organisation into the future. One voice for horticulture. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please enjoy this conference.